They saw a quiet farmhand in muddy boots, just another worker bending under the sun. They laughed when she froze mid-harvest at the sound of rotors, mistaking it for fear. But what they didn't know was that Maria Santos once flew Apache helicopters into war zones, threading metal giants through storms, where one wrong move meant death. And now, with a neighbor's life on the line and a rescue pilot lost in zero visibility, her past is roaring back. Stick around, because when Captain Santos takes the radio, the storm isn't the only thing about to break. Where in the world are you watching from? What time is it there? Let us know, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. The distant whir of helicopter blades cuts through the misty dawn, and my hands freeze mid-motion on the weathered handle of my harvest basket. That sound, I'd know it anywhere even after 3 years of trying to forget. The cornfields around Henderson Farm stretch endlessly golden stalks swaying in the strengthening wind, but my focus narrows to the sickening thud that echoes from near the silos. Pete! The basket hits the ground as I sprint forward, my work boots kicking up soft earth. Pete Milligan, the farm's owner who gave me a chance when I needed it, most lies crumpled between rows of corn. His face is ashen fingers clutching his chest. My combat medic training kicks in before I can think. Pulse weak, breathing, labored. Heart attack. The helicopter's approach grows louder, and I instinctively calculate wind speed from the corn's movement, 35 knots gusting higher. My dog tags clink softly against my chest under my work shirt as I bend to check Pete's vitals again. The sound takes me back to dusty landing zones and impossible rescues. Cannot land in these conditions. A voice crackles over Pete's dropped radio. Visibility decreasing, wind exceeding safety parameters. The pilot's tension is familiar. I've been there, fought that same battle between protocol and necessity. My fingers brush the radio's button before I can stop myself. This is Maria Santos, former Army Captain, Air Rescue. I can guide you in. The words surprise me as much as anyone. 3 years of quiet farm work, of healing, of hiding from that past life, shattered in an instant because someone needs help. The pilot's voice returns, hesitant but hopeful. Copy that, ground. Former captain, you sure about this? Pete's pulse flutters beneath my fingers. The corn waves like a turbulent sea, obscuring visibility. But I know every inch of this land now, every dip and rise, every safe approach. Affirmative. I've got your eyes on the ground. Bank right heading 270. There's a clear strip between the western silos. Time compresses into radio calls and wind calculations, my voice steady, despite the trembling in my hands. The massive red and white rescue chopper emerges from the murk, fighting the crosswinds. 50 meters holding steady. 30 meters. Watch the downdraft on those stalks. 10 meters. 5. Touchdown. The skids kiss earth in a perfect landing, and suddenly I'm back in the present, holding Pete's hand as paramedics rush forward. Someone's phone captures the moment. My dirty work clothes the gleaming helicopter, the sea of corn stalks bent in the rotor wash. By sunset, Farm Hero is trending, but I barely notice. Standing alone in the quiet aftermath, I touch the dog tags that have hung hidden for so long. A simple question echoes in my mind. How long can you hide from who you really are? Sometimes the very things we run from are the things that make us who we need to be. The farm had been my sanctuary, a place to forget the weight of split-second decisions and lives in the balance. But today proved that you can't outrun your past. Sometimes you have to embrace it to save others. Have you ever discovered that what you thought was your weakness turned out to be your strength? Type courage in the comments if you believe our greatest challenges can become our greatest gifts. The warm metal of the dog tags presses into Maria Santos's palm as she stands in the Henderson Farm barn, her calloused fingers tracing the embossed letters she's kept hidden for 3 years. The howling wind outside mirrors the storm in her mind, each gust carrying echoes of rotors and radio static from another life. "You're awful quiet today, Maria," says old Joe the farm's mechanic, his weathered face peering over a broken tractor. She quickly tucks the tags back beneath her shirt, the chain cold against her neck. A study by the Veterans Administration shows that 47% of female veterans choose complete career changes after service, many seeking roles far removed from their military experience. For Maria, the statistics are more than numbers. They're the soil beneath her fingernails, the deliberate choice to disappear into the rhythm of farm life. Her hands shake slightly as she methodically sorts seeds in the storage room, a task she usually finds meditative. But today, each passing helicopter's thrum pulls at something deep inside her, like a thread threatening to unravel the careful simplicity she's woven around herself. Through the dusty window, she watches military aircraft conducting storm preparation exercises, their silhouettes dark against the gathering clouds. "Have you seen those birds up there?" Pete Milligan asks, poking his head into the storage room. "Crazy flying in this weather." Maria nods, keeping her eyes fixed on the seeds, fighting the instinct to analyze their flight patterns, to read the sky like she once did. Research shows that suppressing expertise, particularly in crisis response professionals, can lead to increased stress and decreased overall well-being. Maria feels this truth in her bones, in the way her shoulders tense with each radio weather alert, and how she catches herself automatically calculating wind speeds. The farm's old radio crackles with another storm warning. Maria's fingers brush against the worn cardboard box that holds her flight medals and certificates hidden behind feed bags in the corner. She hasn't opened it since arriving at Henderson Farm, but she knows exactly what's inside Distinguished Flying Cross Combat Action Badge years of training, condensed into metal and paper. Sometimes the hardest storms are the ones we create inside ourselves, her mother had said during their last call, her voice gentle with understanding. Maria hadn't responded then, but now, as thunder rolls across the valley, those words echo with new meaning. Every morning I choose this silence, this simplicity, but what if my silence costs more than just my peace? What if keeping my skills buried is as dangerous as the approaching storm? The earth has been my hiding place, but maybe it's time to look up again. A young farmhand runs past the window, struggling to secure loose equipment before the storm hits. Maria watches him, remembering herself at that age, confident, purpose-driven, unafraid of who she was. The contrast between then and now sits heavy in her chest. Have you ever hidden a crucial part of yourself? Share your story below. The wind picks up, rattling the barn's metal roof. Maria's expertise screams warnings about wind shear and visibility conditions, knowledge she's tried so hard to suppress. Each gust feels like a question. How long can someone deny who they are? How many emergencies will pass before the cost of silence becomes too high? The scientific reality of trauma response and identity suppression manifests in her trembling hands, in the headaches that come more frequently, in the way her heart races whenever she hears rotors overhead. Studies show that prolonged identity suppression can lead to decreased cognitive function and increased anxiety. A price Maria pays daily in small, grinding ways. As the storm approaches, Maria finds herself walking the perimeter of the farm, checking angles and clearings, with an eye she can't fully untrain. Her boots sink into the mud, each step a reminder of her chosen ground-bound life. But today, for the first time in 3 years, she allows herself to look up, really look up at the turbulent sky above Henderson Farm. The dog tags rest against her heart, a constant reminder of the person she's trying not to be. But as the wind rises and the radio crackles with increasing urgency, Maria faces a truth she's been avoiding. Sometimes the greatest act of courage isn't in hiding who you are, but in being exactly who you need to be when others need you most. The distant thrum of helicopter blades cuts through the howling wind as I stand in the middle of Henderson's rain-soaked field, my weathered work boots planted firmly in mud that's quickly turning into streams. The storm transforms the familiar landscape into something alien, but my hands remain steady as I grip the radio muscle memory from another life taking over. Heading 240 pilot, wind shear intensifying at your 3 o'clock. My voice carries the same authority it did years ago in Kandahar, though I never expected to use it here among the corn stalks and cattle. The dog tags I've kept hidden beneath my flannel shirt for 3 years now rest exposed against my chest, catching what little light penetrates the storm clouds. Miguel, who's worked beside me every harvest since I arrived, stares with wide eyes. Just hours ago, I was Maria, the quiet farmhand who could drive a tractor and mend fences. Now they're seeing Captain Santos emerge from beneath that careful disguise, and there's no going back. The helicopter, barely visible through the sheets of rain, wobbles dangerously as another gust hits. Pete's weak cries from the barn where he lies trapped beneath fallen beams echo in my mind. Time is running out. You've got a clear corridor forming pilot. Take it to bearing 185, descent angle 15 degrees. My fingers brush the tags involuntarily, a habit from days when lives hung in the balance, just like this. The familiar metal grounds me, reminds me who I am. Who I've always been, even if I tried to bury her beneath simple farm work and silent days. The shocked whispers behind me fade into background noise as I focus entirely on guiding this pilot through hell. Each calculation, each instruction flows naturally, years of training resurfacing like they never left. The farm workers gather closer, their presence, a reminder of how deeply this moment will change everything. The simple life I'd carved out here, the quiet peace I'd found in honest work and solitude, it's dissolving in the rain. But as the helicopter finally touches down in a controlled landing rotors, throwing water in all directions, I feel something else replacing that peace purpose. The weight of the dog tags against my chest feels right again. Sometimes the greatest consequences come not from what we lose, but from what we can no longer hide. My God, Maria. Miguel breathes as the medical team rushes past us toward the barn. All this time, I meet his eyes briefly, seeing the same realization I'd been avoiding, pretending to be less than who you are. Doesn't protect you. It only wastes what you could offer the world. The storm rages on, but something inside me has gone perfectly still and clear. I came here seeking silence, thinking I could outrun who I was by burying my capabilities beneath simple tasks. But watching that helicopter fight through the storm, feeling the old instincts take over, I realized silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just fear wearing a different name. The real storm was never out there in the sky. It was in here, in the war between who I am and who I was trying to be. Have you ever hidden your true strength? Drop a 1 if Maria's story reminds you that sometimes our greatest gift is simply being who we really are. The rain begins to ease, but I know the real changes are just beginning. As the medical team emerges with Pete on a stretcher, I touch my dog tags one last time before tucking them back beneath my shirt. They'll never feel like a secret again. The farm will talk. The story will spread. And maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. Because sometimes the unseen consequences of being exactly who you are ripple out far beyond yourself, touching lives you never expected to reach. Sometimes they save them. The metallic whine of helicopter blades cuts through the howling storm as Maria Santos stands in the middle of Henderson Farm's south field, her weathered hands steady despite the chaos around her. The emergency lights paint everything in surreal flashes of red and white, catching the silver chain of her dog tags as they swing free from her mud-stained work shirt for the first time in 3 years. Command tower to ground, do you copy? The pilot's voice crackles through the handheld radio, strained but professional. Visibility 00. Need immediate guidance. Maria's fingers close around her tags, drawing strength from the familiar ridges of her name and service number. Ground to command. Former Captain Santos 160th soar. I know these birds. Follow my lead. She moves with practiced efficiency, directing farmhands to position massive hay bales in a precise triangle pattern. The wind tears at her clothes, but her voice carries the same authority it did in combat zones across 3 continents. Marco Diego, 20 meters apart. Those bales are your life now. Lightning splits the sky as she calculates wind speeds and approach vectors in her head. The skills she'd buried beneath 3 years of quiet farm work surge back muscle memory, as fresh as yesterday. Each hand signal, each radio call feels like coming home. Command adjust heading 030. Watch for strobes marking your LZ. Wind shear at 200 feet. Compensate port side. Her eyes never leave the dark shape of the helicopter as it emerges from the storm clouds. She can hear the distinctive rhythm of its rotors, reading its struggles like a language she never truly forgot. The farmhands stare in awe as their quiet co-worker transforms before them. Maria ignores their looks, focused entirely on guiding the pilot through the narrow window between the grain silos. Pete Milligan's life depends on this landing, and she won't fail him. 5-degree descent. Hold. The helicopter hovers, fighting the crosswinds. Maria's heart pounds with familiar intensity as she guides it down. 3 feet. 2. 1. The skids touch earth with a gentle bump that brings tears to her eyes. The sound echoes through her bones, carrying memories of 1,000 other landings. Some triumphant, some tragic, all part of who she is. As the medical team rushes forward to retrieve Pete, Maria stands rooted in place, her dog tags warm in her palm. The pilot, James McKnight, emerges from the cockpit and approaches her with respect in his eyes. That was some of the finest guidance I've ever received. Captain, he says, extending his hand. You saved 2 lives tonight. Maria takes his hand, feeling the weight of her silence lifting. I've been hiding who I am for too long, she replies, voice thick with emotion. Sometimes the best way to honor your past is to use it to help others. The storm begins to fade, but Maria Santos stands taller than she has in years, her dog tags catching the first rays of dawn breaking through the clouds. She's done running from who she is. Her skills, her experiences. They're not burdens to bury, but gifts to share. I thought leaving the service meant leaving that part of me behind. But tonight proved that our past doesn't define us. It prepares us. Every landing, every mission, every lesson learned. They were all leading to this moment where I could save a life, not despite who I was, but because of it. Santos strong, trending across local news as the sun rises over Henderson Farm, where a quiet farmhand revealed her true identity to save a neighbor's life. Have you ever hidden your true strength? Share a moment when embracing your past helped others. The emergency lights fade, but Maria's presence remains commanding, a beacon of strength no longer hidden. She tucks her dog tags back into her shirt, but this time she leaves the chain visible, a reminder that sometimes our greatest acts of courage come not from changing who we are, but from finally letting ourselves be seen. The evening sun bathes Henderson Farm in amber light as Maria Santos stands at the edge of the freshly harvested field, her dog tags catching the fading rays. The metal against her chest feels different now. Not a weight of the past, but a bridge to her future. The distant thump of James McKnight's departing helicopter blends with the rustle of corn stalks and the soft bleating of sheep, a symphony of her 2 worlds finally in harmony. You know, those fields saved more than Pete today, she murmurs to herself, running calloused fingers over the tags that had stayed hidden for so long. The rich soil under her boots, the same soil she'd used to signal the landing zone, holds both her sweat and her redemption. A gentle breeze carries the sweet scent of hay, and somewhere in the distance, a farm bell chimes. The viral video of her rescue coordination has already sparked Maria Santos' spirit, with millions sharing her story of a humble farm worker revealing her military expertise at the perfect moment. But Maria's focus remains on the land before her, where emergency landing markers now stand alongside growing crops. Captain Santos calls Tommy one of the younger farmhands holding up his phone. The local news wants to know if you'll help train their first responders. His eyes shine with newfound admiration, no longer seeing just the quiet worker who could outpace anyone during harvest. Maria touches her dog tags once more, feeling their familiar contours. "Tell them yes," she says with quiet certainty. It's time. In her mind's eye, she sees herself back in that chaos. The storm raging Pete's life hanging by a thread, and James struggling with visibility. But instead of hiding her experience, she had stepped forward, her two worlds colliding in a symphony of purpose. Sometimes we carry our greatest gifts like secrets, thinking we're protecting ourselves by staying small. But today taught me that true courage isn't just about saving lives. It's about living fully, about letting all parts of yourself breathe in the open air. The fields I tend and the skills I carried silently are both part of who I am. And maybe that's the real harvest, growing into your whole self, letting your truth rise like wheat in the sun. The farm's lights begin to twinkle on as dusk deepens. Tomorrow she'll still be here among the crops, but she'll also begin sharing her knowledge with local emergency teams. Her dog tags will remain visible, a symbol of integration rather than division. Drop a 2 if Maria's story reminds you that it's never too late to embrace your whole truth. The last rays of sun catch her smile as she heads towards the farmhouse, her steps sure and steady. Above, stars begin to emerge like beacons guiding the way forward. Sometimes the greatest act of service isn't in choosing between two worlds, but in bringing them together, creating something even more beautiful than before. Close on Maria, silhouetted against the sunset, dog tags gleaming as she walks between the harvest markers that now double as emergency landing guides. A perfect thumbnail image capturing the fusion of her two lives into one powerful whole. Share this story to remind someone that their full truth is their greatest gift. Santos Spirit.